We're starting something new this episode. I want to get my man Big Rob's reaction, as well as his brother, Rob Wu. How should we go by that?
Robbie Woots.
Robbie Woots and Big Rob. These are so they're not really MMA fans per se. I watched Connor and Floyd with him at one of our mutual friends' place. That's Robbie Woots. So one thing everybody loves to see are knockouts. And one thing that I want to bring to this podcast is just like a super casual fan just seeing ridiculous knockouts from the previous event. And what better way to start this off than with Korean Zombie and Yair Rodriguez, and that fucking amazing fight that we saw capped off with one of the craziest knockouts we've ever seen. Probably we've never seen before. So we got 15 seconds left in the fight. And everybody who's watching this already knows what happens, but not these two. So here we go. Let's get it going. And hit play.
Oh my God.
So look,
Okay.
yeah,
So-
right? They're cheering. They went 25 minutes just now of just beating the shit out of each other. And let's just do this real quick. And what the fuck?
Oh.
What happened?
Just fell asleep.
What happened?
So
Thankfully we have some replays, because the first time I saw this knockout as well, I thought that it was a headbutt. I thought, like, oh my God, there's no way this fight ends with a headbutt. Like, after such an epic 5 rounds, this ends with a headbutt. But no. Yair motherfucking Rodriguez pulls some shit out of his ass, and he broke his foot too in the fight, which is why he's like completely in pain right now.
He's got way more blood on him than the other guy.
He was getting fucked. He was about to lose this fight.
That's crazy.
If it went one more second, the Korean guy was about to win a decision.
He went down like a noodle.
Right? I can't wait for these goddamn replays. Come on. But yeah, that's his family dancing and cheering.
Wow. How much money did he win?
Well, it's the difference of getting your full paycheck and half your paycheck. I'm not sure exactly how much it was. It could have been 40 and 40. So if he lost, he would have only made 40. Watch this. Watch his right elbow.
Oh, that was
wow. That's
Right?
so sneaky.
Look at it. The guy's momentum as well as his elbow.
That was intentional?
Yeah, absolutely intentional. I've seen guys throw it just for fun, but this guy threw it at the perfect time. Look at that shit.
What a pop.
Slouched.
Yeah.
Dead.
No, he's done.
This guy's name or nickname is the Korean Zombie, because he never really gets knocked out. He's only been really knocked out
amazing.
once I've seen before.
I've never seen
This is the
that
second
ever.
time.
I've never seen that
Right?
ever in
Yeah.
Exactly. Look at that shit. Poor guy. Look, and the way he crumpled just makes the knockout even better.
Oh.
Right?
It was like power down.
Oh
look
my
at his-
God.
look at his
His coaches. I'm like, fuck yeah. They knew he was losing that fight too. He would have lost that decision. Crazy.
Amazing. That was amazing.
Fucking crazy. Wow. So that was the knockout that I would show these guys right after to begin with, Yair Rodriguez and Chan Sung-Young. I'm going to try to do this every event if there's a spectacular knockout the week before, just to get these guys a little bit more involved. Normally it's just Big Rob, but we got Robbie Woots this time, and he might be here every other time too, so I'm excited to have these guys along for the ride, maybe make them a little bit more of a fan of MMA, so, they might be more knowledgeable than most people within the next 2 or 3 weeks of just chilling with me. So last week we had UFC Denver. I had plus 0.92 units, so slightly under 1 unit of profit. I ended up going 2-2. My lock of the night play was Devontae Smith against Julian Erosa to not to go to a decision, and it hit within 40-something seconds. Devontae Smith landed on Erosa, put his ass out, and we cashed, baby. Minus 245. That was an easy hit in my opinion, and that's why I called it my lock of the night. I also had 3 dog of the night plays. I had Jermaine Durandamy to win by KO. She ended up winning the fight, but not by KO. I thought the weight cut for Raquel Pennington would have had a more of an impact on her performance. It kind of did, but I thought that GDR would probably have, used a little bit more knees, been a little bit more aggressive and got the finish, but, she played a little safe. Say what you want about it, she got the victory. My next play was, Macy Barber versus Hannah Cyphers for it to not go to a decision. Both ladies had finishing capabilities, but Macy Barber is the one that showed up. She cut the fuck up Hannah Cyphers' face. Like, it looked like she was just in a horror movie. It was really fucked up. But big win for Macy Barber, big prospect. I'm really looking forward to seeing what's going on with her. She's only 20 or 21 at this point, so high ceiling for her. And especially in that division too, she's going to be a force to be reckoned with. My other dog of the night play is escaping me at the moment, unfortunately. But I will save you guys very shortly. Ah, jeez, why is it slipping? I know I missed it. That's probably why I'm forgetting it. But it is, we had Thiago Moises. Sorry, Thiago Moises. I had one unit on him to beat Beneil Dariush, but Dariush pretty much used the only game plan I thought he could implement to beat a guy like Thiago Moises. Beneil was put out pretty badly in his last couple fights, and I thought Thiago Moises had the power and the capability of keeping the grappling neutralized to be able to land a big shot on Beneil Dariush and put him out once again. However, Beneil ate some good shots in that third round, and he still kept coming forward, and he still, pushed that pressure against the cage, and got the fight to the ground. And for some reason, Thiago Moises just kept jumping for guillotines. I don't know what the fuck he was thinking. You can't be doing that against a high-level black belt like Beneil Dariush. So tough L for Thiago Moises. It was only a one-unit loss, so I'm not too, upset about that. At the end of the day, we're up just under a unit for that event, so it's a step in the right direction compared to the butt-fucking we got back at UFC 230. This week, though, we're going to be going over UFC Buenos Aires. It's their first event in Argentina. They're trying to figure out what's going on with Latin America right now. They've had the Santiago, Chile event. They've done Mexico a bunch of times. I know they have plans on doing, I think it's Panama. I'm not 100% sure, but they're planning on doing another Latin American country, at least in the first quarter of 2019, or at least second quarter. So this is their next trek into Latin America. Obviously, you're going to see a lot of Latin fighters on this card. Some guys that shouldn't even be there, but they're going to sell some tickets. They're going to bring a crowd, so the UFC will definitely put them on. But I think these Argentinian fighters are going to have a rough night. So, kicking off we're just going to start from the bottom of the card. I haven't actually made my official plays yet either. There are a couple plays that I'm highly considering that I'll let you guys know about as I'm going through the event. But there is one dog of the night play I have yet to place, but will be placing as soon as I finish this podcast. And you guys will hear about it as soon as I get into it. Anyway, first fight of the night, we have Narimani against Anderson dos Santos. This fight was put together pretty late. I didn't get the chance to really look into these guys too much. The line is a little crazy anyway, so I didn't bother, giving it a look. Anderson dos Santos taking this fight on really short notice. Narimani was actually supposed to fight Sergio Gilio, who was actually another guy from Argentina. Unfortunately, that fight didn't come through. And he was also supposed to fight Enrique Barzola, that would have been a crazy fight. I really like Enrique Barzola. It's unfortunate that he hasn't been able to fight that much. Very aggressive striker. It can really, put on a clinic for these guys, and he probably could have done that to Narimani. Unfortunately, he's injured, and now Narimani is fighting a newcomer in Anderson dos Santos. I'm not even going to give you guys a prediction for this fight because all I know is that Narimani is a really good grappler, or a decent grappler, I should say. I don't know much about Anderson dos Santos. It was too late notice of a fight for me to get my tape done for that, so completely discard my opinions on that fight. Moving on to the next fight, we got Devin Powell against Jesus Pinedo. This is another fight where there's a guy coming in for the first time into the UFC, making his UFC debut in Jesus Pinedo. The one thing with Jesus is he's been fighting really sketchy competition on the regional scene, fighting for companies like 300 Sparta, Inca FC 27, Emma 11. Obviously, he's fighting down in Latin America, and there's a lot of sketchy guys in terms of records. You can see one of his opponents was 6-6, one of his opponents was 5-4. He lost to a guy that was 6-7-1. So, you got to take it with a grain of salt when you see these guys making their UFC debuts. And yeah, he's 14-4-1. He has 6 straight wins, but you're fighting a veteran in Devin Powell, who he's coming off a very big win in his last fight against Alvaro Herrera. Body kick KO, or body kick finish. Beautiful finish. I had that fight to not go to a decision as well, and again, that hit pretty easily as well. Within 2 minutes. That was beautiful. Amazing. Minus 160 odds as well, if I can remember correctly. But this time around, Devin Powell is coming back to fight Jesus Pinedo, 4 months removed from his fight against Alvaro Herrera. Powell really brings a good jiu-jitsu game to the table. He showed off his improved striking as well in his last fight. But this guy in Jesus Pinedo, he's a lanky Muay Thai type of striker. It's hard to tell how good he actually is, again, because the competition that he's fighting is not that good. I saw him pretty much truck most of the guys that he was fighting. If they weren't able to put off any type of submissions from the ground after they got dropped, Pinedo was able to easily just throw hammer fists and throw reckless strikes even without having to worry about any type of submissions coming up at him. Against Devin Powell, I think that's some issues. He needs to be a little bit more well-rounded on top and a little bit more polished when when he has his ground and pound going for him. But Devin Powell is really good at throwing up submissions, and that's something to think about when Pinedo may have dropped Devin Powell. In this fight, however, I think I'm actually going to be taking Devin Powell. Got some underdog odds on him right there, but I'm not actually betting him. I'm just taking him. I think he's going to actually win this fight. I think he'll be able to catch Pinedo in a submission. Whether he gets him down himself, which I think he's really going to be searching for. I think he doesn't really want to hang on the feet too much with Pinedo. So I think that Devin Powell gets this fight to the ground and gets a submission in the second round. Next fight up, we got Hector Aldana against Laureono Staropoli. This is actually going to be my underdog play of the night, or my dog of the night play. I got Hector Aldana. Right now I think he's currently sitting at about plus 150, plus 160. I'm going to be taking him in this fight because I think that this Laureono Staropoli guy, again, this is a guy that probably just got this call up to the UFC due to the fact that he's Argentinian and they have their first fight in Argentina. So he's going to bring a crowd with him. He's 7-1. That's a pretty decent record. But I saw the fight that he lost, and the guy seemed to have a pretty easy time getting, how do I fucking pronounce this guy's name? Staropoli. Staropoli, he got taken down pretty easily in the one fight that he's lost, and he got controlled pretty easily as well. Eventually lost by TKO or ground and pound. In his second last fight against Sebastian Delegadillo, man, these names are rough. Fuck. When he fought Sebastian in his second last fight, he was going up against a guy that was only 1-0, and it seemed like this guy was very pertinent on getting the fight to the ground. He was able to get a hold of Laureono a couple times. He got him down, but he gassed within 2 or 3 minutes, and that's when Laureono was able to, implement his heavy striking game. He kind of throws a little bit of reckless and abandon, and I think in this fight against Hector Aldana, that's where it's going to really cost him. Aldana is a very aggressive fighter as well. He's currently sitting at 4-1, but he fights. He should be actually 4-2 considering the fight that he lost to Enrique Marin on the Latin America tough. But in the Keated Song fight, he was winning that fight. He had this weird cut where it was like right on the bottom of his eyelid within the first 30 seconds of that fight, and he managed to deal with that until he eventually got finished at the end of the second round. But he was winning that fight up until that point, in my opinion. And yeah, Keated Song kind of dropped him, but the fact that he was able to put together like 15 quick punches that may not have had that much behind them, the referee was just forced to stop it, and Hector Aldana was up right away. I think maybe another ref maybe would have let that go a little bit longer, and Aldana may have gotten up and survived that. Unfortunately, that referee saw differently, and he stopped the fight. Hector Aldana, he walks forward with heavy punches, very heavy leg kicks, and I think that's going to be a very interesting aspect of this fight. If he's able to implement those leg kicks, who knows how much pop that Laureono is going to be able to have off of his shots. Laureono may have more fights, but I think that the experience that Hector Aldana has accrued in his 5 fights, or 6 fights if you want to call the exhibition bout on Tough some experience as well, I think that's just going to be the difference maker in this fight. He's just going to have that. He's going to have that edge and grit. He's going to have that edge and aggressiveness, and he puts his punches together so well, whereas Laureono is a little bit more wild and reckless. So I really think there's value on Hector Aldana at this price, especially at plus 150, plus 160. It was criminal that he even opened up at plus 220, and obviously at that point it's hard for me to hit that without allowing people that are tailing me to get the same numbers. So I really had to wait it out a bit. I finished up the tape today, and I'm 100% convinced that Hector Aldana wins this fight, and especially at underdog odds, he's worth his stab. I think I'm going to drop about 1.5 to 2 units on him, so bet accordingly. But I think Hector Aldana is very live here as an underdog. I'm going to take Aldana first round KO. Moving on to the next fight, we got Austin Arnett against Humberto Bandenay. Austin Arnett has had a rough stretch of fights since coming into the UFC. Even his third last fight against Brandon Davis, which was on the Contender Series, he still ended up getting a contract of some sort, and he took a fight against Corey Sandhagen on pretty short notice. Lost via body shot in that fight in the second round, and then in his next fight gets put up with another monster in Hakeem Dawodu, who was able to pick him apart with his Muay Thai. Worked the front leg a lot in that first round. Made Austin Arnett a little bit immobile, but Hakeem Dawodu played a very intelligent game in that fight, especially after he got knocked out in the fight before that. So I know he wanted to get a win in his home province of Alberta, and he pulled it off. He probably could have finished on Austin Arnett if he really wanted to, but I think he just played it safe and just made sure he got the W at the end of the day. In this fight against Humberto Bandenay, though, I think Austin Arnett has his work cut out for him once again. Bandenay is a very vicious striker, throws very heavy, very good Muay Thai. He's coming off an unfortunate loss to Gabriel Benitez in his last fight, but he's really close to getting that armbar. Like, if he didn't get KO'd by the slam, he probably would have been able to hold on to that armbar a little bit longer and got the tap. So it's just small things right there. That all happened in 39 seconds as well with Gabriel Benitez. So he could have a W beside his name if in that Benitez fight. Unfortunately, Benitez just dropped him perfectly on his head, put him out, and was able to follow up with shots to get the referee to stop that. In this fight, I think it's kind of going to look like the Hakeem Dawodu fight for Austin Arnett. I think Bandenay is going to be able to beat him up. Beat up that lead leg. I think that Bandenay is going to follow that type of game plan because he saw how well it worked against Austin Arnett, and I wouldn't even be surprised to see a little bit more of an aggressive Bandenay in this fight, at least more aggressive than Hakeem Dawodu was. So I think that we get a second round Bandenay finish, but at the current odds, I probably wouldn't play him. So don't look too far into that. Speaking of odds that may be too wide, we got next up is Alexandre Pantoja against Ulka Sasaki. Pantoja, last time I checked, was about a -305 favorite, which in my opinion is too wide. He's a very good striker. He's very technical and crisp with his strikes. He lit up Brandon Moreno in his last fight. Anytime that Moreno threw a little bit, Pantoja was able to get out of the way and land some beautiful crisp strikes. That was definitely the reasoning he won that fight. He was just a little bit better on the feet. He was able to stay out of the grappling exchanges. And with Ulka Sasaki, I don't think that Pantoja has much to worry about in terms of getting taken down. Sasaki has very desperate takedowns. In his fight against Janelle Lausa, he knew the only way for him to win that fight was to get the fight to the ground. He whiffed on a lot of takedown attempts against Janelle Lausa, again, who's predominantly a boxer too. He doesn't have the greatest takedown defense, which eventually showed because Ulka was able to get him down. But if Ulka wants to try to do that or try to go for those types of takedowns against a guy like Alexandre Pantoja, he might find himself in a choke, and he has lost by choke in plenty of fights. He likes to lean on the rear naked chokes for his own victories himself, but in most of his fights in the UFC, he's lost by a rear naked choke. In his last two fights alone, in his Formiga fight, he lost by a rear naked choke. In the Taylor's Lapilus fight, he got TKO'd, but he got lost to a neck crank to Leandro Issa, which is kind of, kind of shitty. But he choked out Roland Delorme. So I don't think Pantoja really needs to worry too much about Ulka Sasaki's jiu-jitsu in this fight. I think Sasaki, if anything, may need to look out for Pantoja's jiu-jitsu, especially if he's going to be trying those crazy desperate takedowns. So I wanted to find a reason to bet Ulka Sasaki in this fight, especially at him being around plus 330. I just can't find myself doing it. The combination of desperate takedowns, not the best striking. It's getting a little bit better. His kicks are really nice, but Pantoja is just a much cleaner and more polished striker. He has the jiu-jitsu capabilities to keep this fight in his realm. So it's hard for me to see a path to victory for Ulka Sasaki at this point. So I'm not betting Pantoja, but I am picking Pantoja to win this fight by, let's say, by decision. We're going to take a decision. He just outpoints him on the feet and neutralizes any type of grappling that Ulka Sasaki tries to initiate. Speaking of grappling, these are two guys that I love betting on. Michel Prazeres and Bartosz Fabinski. These guys are probably the safest bets whenever you have a card, when they're not fighting each other, because they're pretty much going to neutralize each other, in my opinion. But whenever they go up against any other person, especially in Fabinski's last fight, he fought Emil Meek. Emil Meek's only real path to victory in that fight was to knock out Fabinski, but Fabinski did everything in his power to keep that fight in the grappling range and to keep just keep Meek on the ground or keep him against the fence. And Michel Prazeres kind of does the same thing. The interesting fact in this is going to be both of their second fights at welterweight. This is going to be, so before Michel Prazeres was at lightweight, he had a great run there, but he just kept missing weight. And Fabinski used to be at middleweight, and now he's fighting at welterweight. So Fabinski could definitely be the bigger guy in this fight. But I just think that his gas tank is not, Michel Prazeres' gas tank isn't the greatest either, don't get me wrong. But I think that Prazeres has a chance of being offensive with his grappling, whereas Fabinski just does enough to stay on top. But, he's going to be dealing with a pretty good grappler in Prazeres as well. So, if anything, this fight might even be taking place completely on the feet. And I got to give Prazeres the edge on the feet as well. I think he has the better kicks. I think he has the better Muay Thai. Fabinski does anything and everything possible to get the fight to the ground. And his striking, it just is not that good. I remember hearing an interview with Brian Stan one time. I think it was Brian Stan, where he talked about, you've been working a lot on your striking. Are you going to showcase that in this fight? He goes, no, I want to get this fight to the ground. And he makes it clear. Everybody knows he wants to get this fight to the ground. But again, against a guy like Michel Prazeres, going to be a tough task. So I'm actually going to take Prazeres by decision in this fight. I wouldn't even be surprised if he somehow pulls off a submission too. So I would have bet on the fight. Just it's too close in my opinion. But I think Prazeres takes the win right there. Moving on to the next fight is a fight that I was thinking of actually betting on, but completely is going to pass on now. We got Cynthia Calvillo against Poliana Botelho. This is a classic grappler versus striker matchup. Grappler versus striker matchup. Poliana Botelho, very aggressive striker, very she's very technical with her strikes, and she's mean too. Like, she has this mean streak about her. Like, she almost has that Joanna Jędrzejczyk vibe. I don't know what it is. Like, they have that Smeagol weird look, but they're just so aggressive with it. It mind fucks me all the time I see it. But either way, I think Botelho has that same Joanna Jędrzejczyk type look. So, and they kind of fight the same too. They use their Muay Thai very well. And the one very interesting thing about Poliana Botelho as well is she's able to implement her takedown defense very well too. Against a kind of a bigger fighter in Pro Gonzalez, she was able to, win that fight while Pro Gonzalez was holding her against the cage the entire fight. Because Pro was just holding her, trying to get the takedowns, but kept getting shucked up. And Poliana was able to just land nice knees in the clinch, was able to land elbows. She was the one landing the damage, even though she was the one getting pushed up against the cage. We kind of saw that in the Raquel Pennington and Jermaine Narimani fight this past weekend. But Poliana Botelho is a little bit more aggressive and I think a little bit more mean than Jermaine Narimani. And this fight against Cynthia Calvillo, Calvillo really wants to get this fight to the ground, but I think that it's going to be very difficult against Botelho. With the strikes that she's going to have to eat on the way in, with the strikes that she's going to eat while working for the takedown, I see it being a long night for Cynthia Calvillo. I went into this, studying into this fight thinking that I'm going to bet Cynthia Calvillo, but she, I don't think she leans on her grappling enough. Cynthia Calvillo, she primarily had a stand-up fight with Joanne Calderwood, and she still won that fight, and she was able to implement her wrestling here and there, but, the Carla Esparza fight was kind of tough where she was going up against another grappler. She easily subbed Pro Gonzalez when she got her down. She easily subbed Amanda Cooper when she got her down, but that's the thing. Is she going to be able to get a girl like Poliana Botelho, who showed amazing takedown defense in her UFC career this far? So this one is going to be a no bet for me, but I'm actually going to be picking Poliana Botelho to win this fight. I think it's completely justified as to why she went from being the underdog to the favorite now. I think a lot of people are seeing, what she can offer on tape. But the only reason I'm not betting this fight is Cynthia Calvillo, in my opinion, is probably the best grappler that Poliana Botelho has fought this far. The other time that Poliana Botelho fought a grappler was Viviane Pereira, and she lost that fight. That was only her third fight in her pro career, but she's a little bit more weathered now. She may have she definitely has better takedown defense now. So That's my only concern with this Botello fight, is if Calvillo is actually able to get it to the ground and what Botello is able to do from there. But from what I've seen on tape, Botello should be able to keep this fight on the feet and win, I'm going to say a decision. So, yeah, Poliano Botello by decision. Another fight I was looking at betting on, but I'm eventually going to pass on, is Marlon Vera against Guido Canetti. Both guys I love to fade. I love to bet against these guys. You guys have seen me bet against Guido Canetti when he fought Kyung-Ho Kang. You guys have seen me bet against Marlon Vera when he fought John Lineker. But this fight is kind of pretty black and white. I think that if Guido Canetti lands on Marlon Vera is able to keep the fight on the feet, he should be able to win this fight by knockout or even by decision, like he was able to do to Hugo Vienna, who is also a really good striker. He beat Diego Rivas in his last fight too, who wasn't able to get him down. So I think the line is a little wide. I think that Guido Canetti should not be such a heavy underdog. I think he was around plus 200 last time I checked. But he's such a fish out of water when the fight hits the ground. When the fight actually hits the ground, I think Marlon Vera has a really significant advantage, or he has a huge advantage in jiu-jitsu if this fight hits the ground. And Canetti, again, he's tapped to no hook in rear naked chokes. Like, at the UFC level, that should be an immediate reason to get cut. Like, Guido Canetti should not even be in the UFC anymore, just for having that loss on his record. And I think that Marlon Vera might be able to actually get that to happen. I think he could lock on a choke on Guido Canetti, whether he pulls guard or if he just somehow hops on Canetti's back and somehow, gets his hooks in, locks up the body lock, and could sneak in a choke from there. But it's hard to trust either guy with money. So if you were to bet this fight at all, I would probably bet Guido Canetti, but I'm actually going to be choosing Marlon Vera to win. I think that he does enough to, stay away from the power shots of Guido Canetti on the feet and somehow gets a sub. Somehow. I'm not going to say how, but he's going to get that sub. So I got Marlon Vera, but not betting him at the heavy favorite that he's at right now. Now, seeing this guy? You see how fucking shredded this dude is?
He probably has a really low...
So they're currently looking at Cesar Mutanche Fajera's Tapology picture. All the steroids or some? Probably all. Either way, he is a physical specimen, but unfortunately his UFC stint has not really played out as well as most people would thought it would have, if that makes sense. But how this motherfucker used to make 170 pounds is beyond me. It's good for him, or how he even was fighting, or even, how he was making weight for 170 was ridiculous alone, but he still looks huge for 185, which is even crazier. He's dwarfing guys even at middleweight. He's dwarfing Nate Marquardt. He's dwarfing Elias Theodorou. And in the Carl Robertson fight, which was his last fight, he looks really good. Like, he looked like, if he's able to implement his grappling, he should be able to do very well. And Carl Robertson was kind of in no man's land once he got into that arm triangle choke. In this fight against Ian Heinisch. In this fight, Ian's taking this fight on short notice. Mutanche was supposed to fight Tom Breeze, which is a fight that I was probably going to bet Tom Breeze on. Unfortunately, Tom Breeze pulls out with an injury and steps Ian Heinisch. I'm going to keep fucking his name up. Last fight was on the Dana White Tuesday Night Contender Series. He was an LFA middleweight champion. His last loss was to a UFC vet, Marcus Perez. Crazy arm triangle choke. Marcus Perez was able to get it while he was on top, and then Ian flipped him, reversed him, but Perez held onto the choke, and even from the bottom, he was able to generate enough squeeze to get the tap from Ian. So that was Ian's last and only loss, which was about 4 years ago. 4 fights ago. In this fight against Cesar Ferreira, it's going to be interesting. Ian really likes to go for takedowns. He's a very grapple-heavy fighter, just like Tay Edwards, just like Johnny Hendricks, just like these wrestlers. His only real tool on the feet is like that looping right hook or that looping left hook. Fake the takedown, go for the looping, some sort of power hook. That just seems to be their only real go-to move in the stand-up realm. With Cesar Ferreira, he's going to have to be quicker than Cesar, who has shown that he's a little bit slow in some fights. But if he's quick enough, he might be able to land on Cesar and put him out. We've seen Cesar go out before. But if this fight is going to be a grappling heavy fight, it's going to be tough to see who would have the advantage. Ferreira is going to have a huge height and reach advantage. Ian's only sitting at 5'11", while Cesar Ferreira is 6'1" with a 78-inch reach. Well, that's a 7-inch reach advantage over Ian. So Ian's going to have to do a lot to get in. But once he gets in, he's going to have to make the most of that time. Whether he pushes Cesar against the cage, tries to make it a dirty fight. But Cesar's only been taken down once in his UFC career, and that was against Elias Theodorou. So if it's takedowns that Ian is searching for, this is a tough task to do against a guy like Cesar Ferreira. So he's going to have to make sure he has more than his right hook. He's going to have to make sure that, if he can get the takedown, that he's able to keep Cesar against the cage and kind of grind away at him that way. But I think I'm going to have to go with Cesar in this fight. I think that Cesar, he will be the bigger guy. He has been preparing for this fight too. Ian just took this fight on very short notice. So I think that Cesar probably takes this fight by decision, by neutralizing any type of grappling, and probably landing some heavy shots on his feet too. So I just need to see a little bit more from Ian in terms of striking before I can say anything. But for now, I'm going to be siding with Cesar Ferreira. I think I'm going to take him by decision. This should be a fun fucking fight. Khalil Rountree against Johnny Walker. Yes, this guy's name is Johnny Walker.
That's fantastic. I'm going for that.
Does he look like a Johnny Walker? He's Brazilian.
I don't think he drinks any of that.
He doesn't drink enough.
Probably not. This guy is a beast, though. Don't get me wrong. He has a 14-3 record. He stands at 6'5", which is huge for a guy at light heavyweight. 81.1 inch reach. What the fuck? When did we start doing .1s and shit? But 81 inch reach, 6'5". He had a war against Luis Enrique in his last fight. That's the only fight he's ever been in that went to a decision, and that was on the Brazilian version of the Contender Series. He almost got a choke at the end of the first round. Enrique got saved by the bell. There were plenty of times there where he probably could have stopped it. And against a guy like Khalil Rountree, if he gets Khalil Rountree down, he could probably just end it right there. Roundtree's a fish out of water, but he has heavy hands. Heavy motherfucking hands. He put out Gokhan Saki in his last fight, in a fight that everybody thought that he was going to get KO'd in. However, he's the one delivering the KO against Gokhan. So the one thing that I'm looking at in this fight is the fight to not go to a decision. Last time I checked, it was about -250, which I think is a steal for guys who don't necessarily go to decision that often. I think Khalil has only been in 2 decisions in his UFC career. 1 and 2. Yeah, he's only been to 2 decisions in his UFC career, and Johnny Walker in 17 fights has only been to decision once. So if you're going to bet this fight, I would bet for it to not go to a decision. I also think that Khalil Rountree is too big of a favorite in this fight too. And Johnny Walker would be worth a good shot. He has, his losses are by submission. He lost to Enrique Silva in 18 seconds by a punch, so maybe he just got caught by a punch there. He lost to Wagner Prado as well. That's a guy that a lot of you guys will recognize. But in this fight, you know what? I'm probably going to go with Khalil Rountree. I think he'll land that miracle punch. He may also not be, stifled by the bright lights and the first time Johnny Walker's fighting for the UFC. So I'm going to say that Khalil continues to roll, and he gets a first round KO in this fight. Not too much to break down in this fight. We know, again, both guys are heavy-handed. Johnny Walker, a lot of good kicks, a lot of good punches, really tall for the division, but I think that Khalil Rountree is going to be able to close the distance and put him out. Plain and simple. This fight will actually more than likely be my lock of the night play. We got Ricardo Lamas against Darren Elkins. I'm surprised at the action that's coming in on Darren Elkins within the last couple of days. I was kind of convinced on betting Ricardo Lamas at -250, but I saw him at about -240 or so earlier today. I see the trend kind of going that way where people are going to continue to bet on Elkins. So I'm going to wait a couple of days. If he hits about -220 or -200, I'm going to hit that shit right away. But the most I would bet Ricardo Lamas is -250. So that will probably be my point of entry if it gets worse for some reason. But with this fight, we'll start off with Darren Elkins. Everybody knows what he's about. Even his Tapology page is him bloody as fuck. That's pretty much what he is. The tattoo on his chest says it all. He is the damage. When you think of damage, you think of this guy because he's fucked. CTE for him is going to be horrible. I feel bad. But for our entertainment, he puts on fucking amazing fights. He somehow strung together 6 straight wins, especially victories over Mirsad Bektic, who is probably one of the hottest prospects right now. Give Bektic his first loss. And he beat Michael Johnson, who's probably one of the best strikers in that division too. You know, he's able to pull these victories out, but against a guy like Alexandre Volkanovski, which was his last fight. You know, the guy, Volkanovski, knows how to use his cardio properly. He knows how to pace himself. He was able to just beat the fuck out of Darren Elkins on the feet. He really, you know, put his punches together, dropped Elkins numerous times, almost finished him, but for some fucking reason, Elkins' clock just keeps ticking. It just keeps ticking. It just keeps going. And, you know, unfortunate for Volkanovski, he wasn't able to get the finish there, but he still got a very dominant victory in that fight. And in this fight against Ricardo Lamas, I think it's going to kind of be the same thing for Darren Elkins. I think that Lamas is going to be able to beat him up on the feet. He's going to be able to pace himself. You know, that was the downfall for Mirsad Bektic. You know, Bektic went balls to the wall for the first 2 rounds trying to finish Elkins. Wasn't able to, completely gassed, and then Elkins comes back and somehow finishes Mirsad Bektic. I think he's like a minus 6, minus 700 favorite in that fight too, if I can't. Yeah, actually, you know what? I think they have it here. Yeah, he's a plus 500 underdog to Mirsad Bektic in that fight, and he somehow came back and won after getting his shit kicked in for 2 rounds, or 2.5 rounds at least. But Ricardo Lamas, he's a vet. He is stronger than Darren Elkins in everything that Darren Elkins has going for him. He's a stronger grappler. He's a better striker. He's a more technical striker. He's a more powerful striker. The only thing that Ricardo Lamas needs to worry about in this fight, and I don't even think it's a worry, is a one-punch Hail Mary KO, kind of like Josh Emmett did to him at the beginning of this year, or late last year, I should say. So I think that Ricardo Lamas wins this fight in every aspect. I think he's going to be able to, you know, lean and grapple against Darren Elkins against the cage. I think he's going to wear on him a bit. He's going to outland him on the feet. I think he could maybe even get him down and probably submit him. I think that's definitely a path to victory for Ricardo Lamas, but I just don't see any way that Darren Elkins wins this fight. I think Ricardo Lamas is just too smart and too veteran savvy to be able to blow his load within the first 2 rounds and, you know, eat shit in the third. So I think that Lamas, officially, I'll take him by decision, but I wouldn't be surprised to see Ricardo Lamas pull off some sort of submission in this fight too. So I'm definitely leaning Ricardo Lamas, and he will more than likely be my lock of the night play. So get him when you guys can before his price gets worse, which I think it will closer to the event. So something to keep in mind. Main event time, the one most of us are here for. Argentina native Santiago Ponzinibbio takes on Magny, who seems like he's fought everybody in the welterweight division, but somehow he's never fought Santiago Ponzinibbio before. So here we are. Magny coming off of 2 wins. Last fight he beat Craig White, who turns out to be pretty shit, who lost to Diego Sanchez in his last fight, so say what you want about that. It was actually a short notice fight too, because Magny was supposed to fight Gunnar Nelson. Gunnar Nelson got hurt. In steps Craig White, and easy first round finish for Magny. Fight before that, he outworked Carlos Condit, who just seemed to be there for a paycheck, which is unfortunate. We all love Carlos Condit, but he got outworked by Magny in that fight. Fight before that, he lost to RDA by arm triangle choke, so shows kind of there's levels to this game. He's able to beat these certain guys. He even has a split decision victory over Kelvin Gastelum on a fight that I think either Kelvin took it on short notice, or I can't remember, but he has wins over Kelvin Gastelum. He has wins over Hector Lombard, Johnny Hendricks. Again, Johnny Hendricks that may have been past his prime and not on the juice anymore, so again, take that with a grain of salt. But in this fight against Santiago Ponzinibbio, it's kind of stylistically a bad matchup for him. The only thing that could really be in his favor in this fight is his cardio, his pace, and the fact that it's 5 rounds. If he's able to withstand Santiago Ponzinibbio's blitzing and ridiculous Muay Thai style, he has a very good chance of winning this fight. Maybe if he's able to get this fight to the ground, that could be a path to victory for him too, but I really think if he's just able to stay away from the power shots, if he can continue to make it, make it a higher pace fight so Santiago gets a little bit more gassed quickly, it's very much in favor for Magny. But in the Lorenz Larkin fight for Magny, we saw what possibly could happen for a guy when Magny steps in to fight Santiago Ponzinibbio. Lorenz Larkin worked his front leg hard. Like, he was chopping leg kicks bad. It was fucking Neil Magny up. Like, that guy has chicken legs. But Lorenz Larkin was destroying his legs with really heavy chopping leg kicks. And I think that Santiago Ponzinibbio can implement the same type of game plan. If he's smart, if he has his shit together, he should be able to implement that exact same game plan, land those heavy leg kicks, then, follow up with some shots to the face just to keep Magny guessing. And I think he has good enough takedown defense to keep the fight on the feet for at least 3 rounds, where I think that, once the 4th round hits, I think that's where Neil Magny takes over. So as long as Ponzinibbio is able to win the first 3 rounds or get a finish, he should be able to win this fight. I've been trying to battle. I've been battling with myself in terms of who I'm actually picking to win this fight. I've been going back and forth a lot. Both guys do have paths to victory. Ponzinibbio is just such a vicious and precise striker. And whenever we've seen in the past, whenever Neil Magny goes up against a guy like that, it's not the best for him, or it doesn't really work out for him. So I'm gonna go with Ponzinibbio in this fight. I think that he beats up Magny on the feet a lot in the first round, works on the legs, and then in the second round he puts his punches together a little bit more, maybe drops Magny with a body shot and TKOs him that way. But I think this will be a night for Ponzinibbio to celebrate in Argentina. Again, first fight in the UFC in Argentina. So I think it'll be, this is kind of teed up for him in a sense. It's teed up for him to get a victory. He's 26-3. He's been killing it. His only loss was also to a guy that Neil Magny lost to, which was Lorenz Larkin. But since that fight, he's able to put together 6 straight wins. He had a fight that he was supposed to have with Kamaru Usman back in May. Luckily for him, that fight got pulled, because I don't think that would have been a great fight for him. So he's going to be able to stay on his winning ways. Build on top of a victory over Mike Perry, build on top of that victory over Gunnar Nelson, and get another ranked opponent under his belt in Neil Magny in this fight. So I'm going to take Santiago Ponzinibbio by 2nd round KO. So, as I said earlier, I don't officially have my plays placed, but I will be betting Hector Aldana, so make sure you guys jump on that. I'll probably bet about 1.5 units. I wouldn't be surprised to see him at Pick'em odds come fight night. So as soon as you guys see this, as soon as you guys hear this, make sure you guys bet on Hector Aldana to get the best price possible. And then I'm just going to be monitoring Ricardo Lamas' line as well. So keep your eyes on that. See whereabouts he goes. Darren Elkins has that fan love, and there will be people that will bet on him at these dog odds because he's pulled it off before. But it's not going to happen this fight. That's why I'm calling Ricardo Lamas the lock of the night for this Argentina card. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Lock Fight League has been going great. We got the playoffs going down this week. Somebody's going to win $125 or somebody's going to win $130. That goes down Wednesday and Sunday, so make sure you guys tune in for that. And then next week, I believe we got the Beijing card where we got we got Francis Ngannou against Curtis Blades, which should be a really good fight. And then we got a bunch of guys from that part of Asia fighting each other. So I'm going to be or at least studying that card this whole week, and then I'll be back for you guys next week to do the breakdown on that. But here's to a great and profitable UFC Argentina coming up that we got this weekend. And I'll see you guys next week for UFC Beijing breakdown. I'm out. Later.